Okay, boys and girls, we're back with Geronimo Stilton. I think this is the third installment. These chapters are not marked, so it's always hard to remember. Okay, this one is the last one there, pays the bill. I slipped the scroll in my pocket. Suddenly, I felt 3 tugs. There was something wrong. I pushed myself out of the president's eye and felt myself being pulled harder. The next thing I knew, I was dangling in midair like a rodent in a cat's claw. It was terrifying. I looked up, down, and all around. That's when I realized there was a crowd of rodents on the ground below me. They were all shouting and pointing at me. Petunia and Thea were among them. "Look, who's that rodent dressed in green? Maybe he's a Fey Mouse actor. Looks more like a complete cheese brain to me." Then Tia shrieked. "Wait a minute! It's Jerry!" "Impossible! He gets airsick," said Petunia. Before I could call to them, Trap and Wild Willie pulled me back into the hot air balloon. Wild Willie steered the balloon to a clearing far from the curious eyes of our friends. "Wonder what it means. Here's the mysterious message written on the parchment. There are jewels that no mouse can part. These should be left within Earth's heart." Somehow he managed to land in the precise spot where we'd left the motorcycle and sidecar. We immediately began examining the mysterious scroll. Trap took the parchment, held it up to the light, and turned it over. He inspected it for a long time, searching for a hidden clue. Wild Willie was twirling his whiskers again. I could tell he was deep in thought. Inside Earth's heart? Jewels? He murmured. "Stilton, give me your guidebook." I handed him the pamphlet Ms. Sweetpaws had given me. Wild Willie quickly paged through. "Catapultin' cowpokes. I think I've got it," he declared. "We've got to go to Jewel Cave." I smacked my snout. I really had to stop doing that. It hurt. Of course, Jewel Cave. I read that inside it sparkles like semi-precious stones. Trap smirked at me. "Good for you, Jeremeister. You're almost semi-intelligent." Before I could respond, Wild Willie cried, "We're off, Stilton. Adventure awaits for no mouse." Wild Willie is a rodent of few words, but the ones he chooses leaves their mark. "You're right, let's hit the road," it says. Wild Willie and Trap hopped on the bike. Reluctantly, I squeezed myself into the sidecar. We burned rubber, and as we sped toward Mount Rushmore. Yes, you read correctly. We were headed back to Mount Rushmore, where I'd just made a total cheese brain of myself. "I hope nobody recognizes me," I muttered. Alas, my hopes were in vain. As soon as we pulled into the parking lot, rodents started pointing at me. "Look, there he is," they snickered. Aw. Oh, and here's everybody looking at Geronimo. "What a cheese brain. Shame on you, G. I expected better from you." "How could you?" "Uncle G, I'm hungry." "Grandson." This one says grandson. That's the crazy cheese brain we saw hanging from the hot air balloon." My fur turned redder than a tomato. Everyone was staring at me. On top of that, Grandfather, Bruce, Petunia, Tia, Benjamin, and Bugsy Wugsy had been waiting for us for hours, and they were quite exasperated. Petunia looked at me sternly. "Geronimo, I would never have expected this from you." "Shame on you, Jerry," Thea shouted. "Grandson, why are you late? I've told you 100 times, the early mouse gets the cheese." Grandfather William Shortpaws boomed. "That wasn't you hanging from that hot air balloon like a world-class cheese brain, was it?" I was about to confess the whole absurd story of the treasure in the hot air balloon, but before I could open my mouth, Trap elbowed me hard and then kicked me in the shin for good measure. "It's all Geronimo's fault," Trap squeaked. "He got car sick. I mean motorcycle sick. I had to drive very, very slowly and stop every 2 minutes so he didn't lose his cheese. You know how Geronimo is. He's such a wimp, and he's always whining." I was about to protest when Petunia threw a paw around my shoulder. She looked very concerned. "Oh, my poor little cheese dumpling, how are you feeling?" After that I kept my snout shut. You see, I have a soft spot for Petunia, and I was ecstatic that she was being so kind to me. Besides, once my friends spotted Wild Willie, they forgot all about me. They quickly invited him to join our group. Benjamin and Bugsy Wugsy asked for his autograph. They begged him to squeak at their school about his archaeological finds. They even asked if he would teach them karate. In all the confusion, I didn't have time to tell the whole story, but I promised myself I would as soon as I could. "Enough of all this chattering," Grandfather shouted. "It's time to eat. I'm hungrier than a rodent on a diet. Grandson, since you're the last one to arrive, dinner is on you." May the best rodent win. Naturally, dinner cost me a bundle. We stopped at a restaurant we found along the highway. Everyone was so hungry, they ordered double portions of the most expensive items on the menu. While we waited for the food to be served, Bruce and Wild Willie stared each other down, grinning. Without squeaking the word, the two friends rolled up their sleeves and began to paw wrestle. "Show me what you can do, old Willie," Bruce declared. "You're in for it now, Bruce," Wild Willie responded. But the two mice were so well matched that neither was able to move the other's paw, not even by a millimeter. The wrestling match ended in a draw. Then it says, "May the best rodent win." Flashing a cocky grin, Wild Willie showed us a scar on his right paw. "You see this? I got this 2 years ago on an expedition to the Mayan pyramids. I came snout to snout with a mouse trap with razor-sharp tips." Bruce rolled up his pant leg and displayed a scar as long as a slice of Swiss. "Oh yeah, well look at here. A starving mountain lion mistook me for breakfast." Benjamin encouraged me to join in the competition. "Come on, Uncle G, squeak something too." Now, dear reader, I am a very quiet and cautious rodent. I spend most of my time at my office, glued to my desk. But I didn't want to disappoint my favorite nephew, so I muttered, "Oh yes, well, just look at this bruise on my chin. I got it from the corner of my desk." Oh, and number two, I squished my tail in the taxi door. And 3, this one here on my right knee, that's from when I slipped on a banana peel. And this one number 4, came from slamming the refrigerator door on my paw. Not surprisingly, no one was impressed by my wounds. No one except Petunia, that is. She is always very concerned for my well-being. "Poor little cheese curl, he's always so distracted," she whispered. Tia was less sympathetic. "That's so true, Petunia," she said. "My brother is a world champion klutz." Everyone chuckled under their whiskers. My fur turned red with embarrassment. Bruce ignored my tale of woe completely. He was busy trying to impress Tia and Petunia. Using just one paw, he lifted a heavy table above his snout. But then, Tia and Petunia scarcely noticed. In fact, they seemed a little annoyed. "I hope those steaks come soon, or I'll have to watch these two compete all night," my sister murmured. Sure enough, Wild Willie lifted an enormous refrigerator with one paw. And then Bruce grabbed me and began showing off a whole series of extreme, rapid karate moves. He twirled me around in midair and, for the grand finale, slammed me to the floor like a wet mop. Then Wild Willie began his counter-strike. He immobilized the adversary, me of course, by whacking me on the neck. So there I was, stuck on the floor, unable to move a whisker until he finally relented and helped me up. I scrambled to my paws, rubbing my neck. I was in agony, and that's when I heard Thea whisper to Petunia, I had no idea Wild Willie knew the secret art of karate's pressure points. Only a few masters in the world are familiar with that ancient Japanese technique. I could tell then she was impressed. Who knows how long this friendly, but painful, competition would have gone on if the waiter hadn't interrupted with our steaks and the rest of our food. Thank good mouse. Bruce and Wild Willie exchanged some heavy-duty slaps on the back and then shook paws. Oh, and here it shows a picture of all their showing off. These two guys are lifting things, and then they're doing stuff to Geronimo. Bruce picks up a heavy table. Wild Willie lifts a refrigerator. Bruce shows off some karate moves. And Wild Willie immobilizes me with a secret karate maneuver. No one's tougher than you, Willie, old pal. Way to keep in shape, Bruce, old buddy. Finally, we all sat down like a normal pack of mice and began to make plans for the following day. Trap immediately suggested we visit Jewel Cave. Everyone readily agreed that it was a very famous cave worth seeing. I opened my snout to tell everybody about the mysterious treasure, and that's when Trap pinched my ear, kicked my shin, and smacked me on the back. Before I knew what was happening, I found myself snout down in a bowl of cheese soup. By the time I wiped my snout, Trap had changed the subject. Everyone was busy laughing uproariously at his impression of me with my snout in a bowl of soup. Aw, poor Geronimo, he's getting the shaft here. I sighed. I promised myself I'd tell everyone the story of the mysterious treasure in the Black Hills as soon as I could. I was convinced that together we would easily find the treasure, and, besides that, I wanted to divide it equally among us. My cousin Trap has a lot of good qualities, but when it comes to money, he is greedier than my great-uncle's stingy snout. After I cleaned my snout, I went to the cash register to pay the bill. But when I looked for my Mouse Express gold card, I couldn't find it anywhere. Crusty kitty litter. I must have lost it at the airport. What a catastrophe. Okay, I think we will end here. So until next time, boys and girls,